When I confessed to Margaret after our college graduation, her rejection was not like it was in my worst-case scenario. I almost would have preferred if she had sneered at me, laughed at me, or done anything else that made me suddenly hate her guts. When I told her I loved her from the beginning, her perfect smile stayed intact, but something in her blue eyes seemed to diminish. She was as polite as ever when she uttered a slow and considerate confirmation of my worst fears. "I'm sorry. I don't feel the same." My reaction was not my worst-case scenario either. I nodded, wished her well, and walked away to talk with my friends. I only briefly glanced over my shoulder to see she had turned around and done the same, her blonde hair bouncing with her laughs, as she carried on business as usual, without a care in the world for my steadily breaking heart. I still wasn't over her after a few months passed, but I never cried about it. I just kept a numb bitterness in my chest and hoped it would someday leave on its own. It was around this time that I met Ava Warner, a fellow employee at the office where I worked. When I first saw her seated at the front desk and hunched over her keyboard, I'm ashamed to admit that the first thing I noticed about her was her chest, before forcing my eyes to her face. She did not have the facial graces of someone a romantic would write songs about. She had thick, bushy black eyebrows that sat over thickly bespectacled brown eyes, and a short bob of brown hair that added some superficial roundness to her square face. When she noticed me, she chatted up a storm about how it was nice to meet me, how the boss should be in his office, and to let her know if I needed help on my first day. Weeks at the new job turned to months, and soon Ava and I greeted each other by first name. I asked her out for coffee, and she agreed to join me. I enjoyed talking to her. Ava was one of those people who naturally became a part of your life without much fanfare or struggle. She was simply there, and she was there at the right time. She was easy to talk to, easy to listen to. We blended our routines seamlessly. Conversations felt brief when they had gone on for hours. One autumn night, after eating dinner, we walked to a small park and sat on a bench near the lake. While she quietly read a book on her Kindle, she mindlessly curled her body against mine. I almost didn't register that my arm had been draped over her shoulders, my fingers fidgeting with her stupid white and orange scarf. "Hey, Marcus?" She spoke quietly, her cheek resting against my chest. I let out a tired hum of acknowledgement. "I love you." The sense of peace I felt alongside her seemed to shudder at her words. Her voice, soft and ridden with the same tiredness I felt, was barely above a whisper. When she uttered that sentence, it felt like a plain statement, said without hesitation or shame, with full confidence. She spoke as if I felt the same. I don't know why I repeated that sentence back to her. Well, I do, and I don't. On one hand, how often would I meet someone like her? Someone so easy to talk to, someone so attentive and kind. I've been told, like everyone, that beauty is only skin deep. Looks fade, but a personality like Ava's would never die as long as it was nurtured, and I had no problem nurturing it as best as I could. I don't know much about love. I've never had a girlfriend before her, after all. Maybe love means looking past what you dislike and embracing what really matters. On the other hand, I felt like a liar. I know I sound cruel, but if you saw her face, you might understand. When she smiled, her eyebrows raised, and her forehead would form a thick crease that aged her 10 years. Her thick eyebrows were uneven to a noticeable degree. Her 2 front teeth were a bit longer, making her look like a rabbit if I thought too much about it. Some men might be into that. I wasn't. Her body, however, was a different story. Ava's face and body did not match. It's like whatever powers of creation that be popped the head off of a mediocre Midwesterner and stuck it on the body of a movie star. Before you call me any assortment of names that you see fit, I assure you that my conscience has already called me far worse epithets. I don't like seeing women for their bodies first. It's not something I make a habit of doing. But for Ava, I fear I have no choice. Getting in a relationship means that things you don't think about start changing labels. Going out for lunch turns into going on a date. Let's go to my apartment turns into let's go home. Marcus and Ava turn into honey and sweetheart. The progression felt so natural, and yet I felt this pit in my stomach every time I woke to see her sleeping form, then her sleeping face beside me. God, in the dim morning light, she almost looked like a man. I had spent my life yearning for a warm body to call my love. I didn't think about the face I wanted attached to it. I know, I'm terrible. But at times I felt like I was being punished for wanting more when I looked above her chin. At some point, while we had snuggled together and watched a movie, a sex scene prompted her to squirm uncomfortably in my lap and look away, bunny teeth pressing down on her lip, while her fingers latched around the crucifix she wore around her neck. Want me to skip it? I asked, slightly amused. The topic of sex tended to make her react like an uncomfortable teenager a lot of the time. No, I can make it. The glow of the flat screen illuminated her blushing cheeks. I would have assumed she had a blooming rash on her face if I didn't know any better. I robotically ran my fingers through her hair. You're so brave. The scary part is almost over. I grinned as I watched her brows furrow in flustered annoyance. Shut up, she whined, burying her face into my chest. The gesture was cute, and also gave me a good opportunity to look past her head and down her back. I wrapped my arms around her hips and firmly pressed her body against my own. She was silent as we only passively listened to the film. She started talking about intimacy, how she had never done anything like that before, about how scared she was to try it. She rambled about how happy I made her, how she wanted to make me happy. Her voice was an echo as I ran my hands up and down her sides. You make me feel pretty. Because you are. You're the prettiest. She giggled. I looked down past her crucifix as her chest bounced with laughter, and I briefly thought about how I was going to burn in hell. When we did it for the first time, I tried to look in her eyes as best I could. I praised her even as she scrunched her face like she was constipated. Whenever she closed her eyes, I took in blissful eyefuls of her nude form. I want to say that pleasing someone as wonderful as her made it all worthwhile. But as my eyes lingered longer on her better assets, I know that to only be half true. After that, she got hooked. That mousy Christian girl had gone off the rails with desire, and had become excited to fall into my arms at any chance we got. I guess I was a great lover in her eyes, a true romantic. Problems started to arise when she noticed my extended glances anywhere other than her glaring flaw. This became annoying when she got closer to her period. She usually had no qualms or questions during any other days of the month, which made her a dream to live with. But she was very emotional when the dreadful week was upon us. While we put new sheets on our bed, tears began to well in her eyes, and a scowl carved itself into her features. "What's your favorite part of me?" she inquired for the third time that night. "Your mind," I repeated, silently hoping that her incorrigible whining would fade away as she fell asleep. "Stop answering me so safely," she cried, moving erratically as she fluffed her pillow. "I want a direct answer. You always talk so vaguely about me. I think you're handsome. I like your beard and your eyes." "Thank you kindly," I muttered sardonically. The tears flowed more intensely now. God, I just wanted to sleep. I had no energy to feed into the lie that night, and yet I persisted. "You don't like me at all, do you? You just think I'm convenient. You're gonna leave, and... She got under the covers beside me and cried into her hands. "I'm sorry. I know I'm being a baby." I sighed and rubbed her knee. "It's okay, babe. I love you." She wiped her tears away with her wrist, sniffling loudly. "Just... do you still think I'm pretty? I know I sound paranoid. I just feel like you don't think I'm pretty anymore." I thought about it briefly. I suppose I hadn't organically called her pretty in months now. "Does that matter?" She looked at me with a sullen expression, the kind that dampens your features after a cry that drains you of your energy. I guess it shouldn't." There was a fleeting look of recognition in her eyes, like she had seen past me for the first time since we had gotten together. I could not allow that to be so. I cupped my hand over her cheek and kissed her long and deep. "You're beautiful, Avi. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." She smiled, and for a moment she believed what I was saying. When I woke up in the middle of the night and watched her sleep, I saw something through the haze of exhaustion. In the dark, I could piece together the shadows of her features and rearrange them if I concentrated hard enough. In one moment, she resembled Angelina Jolie. In another, she looked like Jennifer Lawrence. I shifted through a plethora of faces that I deemed would match her body when I came upon a visage that made my heart flutter in my chest for the first time in years. Margaret, with her beautiful blonde hair and smooth lips, lay sleeping before me. In the bliss of imagination, I kissed her atop her head and saw her smile in her sleep. I fell back to sleep, feeling like a kid in love for the very first time. When I saw Ava in the kitchen the next morning, I was reminded of what she really looked like. I remembered what I did in the middle of the night when I heard her chipper humming and saw her dance and twirl as she cooked us breakfast. I guess it put her in a good mood. When she kissed me on the cheek as she served me eggs on toast, I involuntarily imagined Margaret again, and I grinned widely as I returned the affection tenfold. I had the best intentions. I wanted Ava to be happy. She deserved it. She deserved a man who valued her and made her feel pretty. If I thought hard enough, I could be just that kind of man, without being fully dishonest. When we made love, my eyes had become glazed over in concentration. I worked hard to smooth out her features with a make-believe airbrush, trying to appreciate her natural features without pulling from a celebrity crush or bygone opportunity, but ended up falling back on blue eyes and silky smooth hair. I don't want to admit how long I've done this for. I had become addicted to multiple perceptions that I had created of my girlfriend. The airbrushed version of her, the celebrity versions of her. In my mind, I felt like I was fixing her, like I was taking her apart and putting her back together the right way. Our kisses felt more meaningful now than they did when I was faced with her original visage. Now, she could be anything I wanted from her, and she didn't have to know. My Ava was truly perfect. The guilt came crashing into me one night when I woke up to see her sleeping soundly in my arms. She laid face down on her pillow and drawled on my sleeve, the graceful dork. I thought about how long I had gone without appreciating her for how she was. I had spent a long time in my own deluded honeymoon phase, my harmful fantasy, that I hadn't seen her true face in weeks, months. I gently scooted her face up from the pillow to prevent her from smothering herself. I decided from that point on that I was okay with facing reality and living with Ava, the real Ava, whose skin was rough under my hand. When I came face to face with her, my blood ran cold. Ava's face looked to be sandpapered down to the bone. Nerves and shredded muscle clung to her dry jaw and brow, looking as though she had been a pallid corpse for years. She slept peacefully despite her eyelids looking as though they had been methodically stretched and cut off. I was frozen, my instinct urging me to scream, but I sat still with my palm against her cheek. I suppose the experience was surreal, almost dreamlike for me. I made no move to run or hide. I just stared at her. She stirred, being pulled from slumber at my touch. Matte, dry eyes rolled in their sockets to peer up at me. The juxtaposition of her dead eyes and lively expression kept me transfixed. She hummed contentedly and leaned into my hand. "Can't sleep, baby?" Her voice was an anomalous whisper that hissed through her teeth, her lips nowhere to be seen. I squeezed my eyes shut, then opened them. Margaret was smiling at me again, with the shame of a man on death row. I smiled. "Just getting a good look at you." I leaned forward and kissed her forehead, listening to her giggle. I would not acknowledge how dry she felt under my lips. Why was this happening? I still can't wrap my head around it. Did I submerge myself in delusion for so long that I forgot how her face truly looked? Was that horrific sight my own doing? Perhaps this is just an involuntary mask I fashioned for her. I was not aware that my imagination could be so vividly disturbing. I don't know how I fell asleep that night, but I was knocked out until noon. Ava worriedly put her soft hand to my forehead and felt for a fever. "You're so clammy," she acknowledged. She proposed a walk, saying the sun would do me some good. When we wordlessly traversed through the park, I took pause at how different it all looked. How the trees wilted in the summer heat, how the flower arrangements had changed, how the brick beneath us seemed to have aged and melded to the shape of our footsteps. Just how long had it been since that night on the bench? How long have we lived together? I looked over my shoulder and gazed at her masked face. How long had it been since I lied to her for the very first time? How long would it be until I stopped? The guilt creeped in again, and I squinted my eyes as I looked at her through the glaring sunlight. I wanted to see my Ava again, but I just couldn't. I didn't want to try to peel back the visage like I had before. I was scared of what I would find, that she would see my horrified expression and think I hated her. So, on I strolled, Ava's spirit loyally possessing a phantom of my selfish desire. She never needed to know. One day, though, the flame of my imagination had burnt out. I could not conjure those beautiful blue eyes anymore. Perhaps it was the mental exhaustion, or maybe my shame had compiled and retaliated against my fear. I did my best not to react when I saw Ava standing at the foot of my bed, looking even more mutilated than she had before. She looked as though someone had split her head down the middle with an axe, then pulled the frontmost section of her skull away, and left the back of her head intact. I don't know how I heard her speak, but I managed. Her voice was like a memory echoing in my mind, though it took a back seat as I focused on the exposed muscles of her neck as they flexed and twitched with each word. Her jaw clicked dully as it swung, her bloody teeth grinding together. "What's wrong?" Her palm was pressed against my cheek. "Please, tell me what's wrong." "I'm just not feeling like myself." I could never tell her the truth. I would hurt her more than I ever had before. She did not deserve the scrutiny of my gaze. That's what I told myself when I eventually couldn't even look her in the face. I had unabashedly taken to staring at her better assets. They remained unchanging, even as her head and neck melted away. Her ample body kept its shape, even as dried blood and flowing pus trickled down her collarbone and soaked her blouse. I eventually stopped hearing her voice. I don't know when or if she told me she was pregnant. I just saw her midsection grow over the course of several months. I didn't even realize that much time had passed. On a cool November night, unsure if she was sleeping or awake, I rolled over and kissed her stomach. I held her for hours until tears gave way to a dreamless sleep. When I awoke, she was nowhere to be found. No blood, no trace of stray hair or the smell of her perfume. The bed was clean and white, as if no one besides me had touched it. Any signs of life that had littered the sheets were gone, as I wrapped myself in them and wept. The space she left was cold. I don't know if she had enough of my behavior and finally left, or if I had erased her. Maybe she was never bothered with me in the first place. Ava, if you're out there, please, take care of yourself. I failed us, and I'm sorry. I've never been more relieved. I hope you enjoyed the story. For more content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support keeps the shadows dark. If you want more Sinister, links to my social media and Spotify can be found in the description, unless you're already there. Don't forget to sign up to the Patreon, where you can see all the content a day earlier, and an exclusive video every month once we hit 20 patrons. Until next time, keep your lights low, eyes open, and your doors locked.